The idea that AI is coming for our jobs, well, it isn't some far-off sci-fi story anymore. It is happening right now. And because of that, we're being forced into a really serious conversation about how our society works. A conversation that's bringing a pretty radical idea back into the mainstream. So let's get into it. Can you believe that quote is from 7 years ago? Andrew Yang was on the presidential trail sounding the alarm about self-driving trucks. But his prediction? It was about so much more. He saw this massive wave of automation coming for millions of jobs that we all just take for granted. And today, it really feels like that wave is crashing onto the shore. Okay, so let's shift away from predictions and look at the here and now. This is not a forecast anymore, you guys. It's a fundamental economic shift that is happening as we speak. And the data? Well, it paints a pretty startling picture. A recent study from MIT found that almost 12%, 11.7% of the entire labor market could be replaced by AI today, not in the future, right now. We're talking about a staggering $1.2 trillion in wages in sectors like finance, healthcare, you name it. And if we look just a little ways down the road, the picture gets even more intense. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that by 2030, a massive 40% of American jobs could be displaced by automation. I mean, just stop and think about that. That's 4 out of every 10 jobs. And this is not just an American problem, not by a long shot. The World Economic Forum is projecting that on a global scale, 92 million jobs could be displaced by 2027. That's just a few years away. The scale of this disruption is, well, it's huge, and it is picking up speed fast. So when you're facing a problem this big, it kind of forces you to give old ideas a fresh look. And one of the biggest ideas making a comeback is universal basic income, or UBI. It's a concept that's been kicked around for centuries, but honestly, it has never felt more relevant than it does right now. So, what exactly is UBI? The idea is actually pretty simple. It means every adult gets a regular payment from the government. Period. No strings attached. This isn't welfare tied to whether you have a job or not. It's a basic income floor for everyone, no matter their work status. Now, I know this might sound totally theoretical, but it's actually being put to the test in the real world. Let's dive into a really fascinating case study from Cook County, Illinois. That's where Chicago is. They recently ran one of the biggest UBI pilot programs in the US just to see what would happen. And the results were pretty amazing. The program gave about 3,200 households $500 a month for 2 years. And the impact they reported was huge. A big majority, 75%, said they felt more financially secure. 70% said it had a positive impact on their mental health. And get this, almost everyone, 94%, used that money for essentials and emergencies. Of course, seeing results like that immediately brings up the million-dollar question. Or in this case, the multi-billion-dollar question, who pays for it all? Because in Cook County, funding the program created a whole different and very serious set of problems. And this is where the rubber meets the road. To pay for programs like this, property taxes went through the roof. And I'm not talking about small little bumps. Chicago saw its biggest jump in 30 years. And in some neighborhoods, like West Garfield Park, property taxes more than doubled, a 133% increase. Just wow. Naturally, this led to some major pushback. The Illinois Policy Institute flat out called the program a failed strategy. And their concern wasn't just about the tax hikes. It gets to the heart of the debate. Does this kind of safety net reduce the incentive to work? They argue these programs can actually leave people with less job experience and lower earnings in the long run, creating dependency instead of opportunity. So the Cook County experiment really shows us the good and the bad of trying to fund UBI at a local level. But what if you think bigger? What about a national plan? Andrew Yang's vision for UBI suggested a totally different way to foot the bill. And the proposed funding source might actually surprise you. It's not about property taxes. In a pretty remarkable statement, the CEO of the huge AI company Anthropic, Dario Amodei, he just said it outright: tax us. The whole idea is to have the very companies making trillions from AI help pay to solve the problems they're creating. To really get the logic here, you just have to look at how concentrated our economy has become. I mean, the vast majority of stock market growth is now being driven by just these 7 giant tech companies. The key insight is that all this immense value from the AI revolution, it's being captured by a tiny, tiny number of players.
So the argument is that a national program could be funded by taxing a small piece of those gains, instead of hitting up local homeowners.
And this gets to the core of Yang's freedom dividend idea, $1,000 a month for every single American adult. The argument is that it's not just a safety net. It's that capitalism itself doesn't work if people don't have money to spend. This is about putting capital directly into the hands of consumers to keep the economy moving from the bottom up. All right, let's bring this all full circle. We've looked at the pretty scary data on job loss, we've explored a potential solution with some really serious challenges, and we've talked about a national vision. But it all comes back to the sheer scale of what we're up against. Andrew Yang's sobering prediction is that over the next 10 years, 30 to 40 million American jobs will just disappear, wiped out by AI and automation. He calls that number devastating and catastrophic. And really, it's a number that forces us to look this problem right in the eye. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. When we're facing a technological shift that could displace tens of millions of people, is a guaranteed income still just a radical idea, or is it a realistic and maybe even necessary solution? That, right there, is the multi-trillion-dollar question we all need to start thinking about.